Pompeii, a city doomed to a fiery fate, trapped in time. When I went to Pompeii, I expected a small town with bodies littering the streets and houses. However, what I got was a different picture altogether. Upon arriving to Pompeii, I discovered it was much larger than I had imagined, with the town stretching a considerable amount. Most of the bustle was headed towards an exhibit, which we didn't go to, but instead we went to the theater nearby. Taking a quick look through the theater, we headed into the city. The city consisted of tightly bunched rooms and narrow alleyways. One interesting thing about it was the similarities between their sidewalks and modern sidewalks. Pompeii had curbs and crosswalks just like modern ones. However, instead of white strips, Pompeii's crosswalks were stepping stones, which had deep wagon ruts running between them. Another cool thing were the cats lazing around the ruins without care for the crowds. We eventually found a house that wasn't barred off, which had a few faded murals. However, there were no bodies, just a few pots. Eager to find the famous petrified corpses, we scoured through buildings with little success. Many of their murals were non-existent, making it rather boring to wander through the city. To make matters worse, many parts of it were under construction and most of the rooms were barred off. This made exploration fairly linear and not as open. After hours looking for a body, we finally found a body in a glass case. This part of town seemed to be a more ritzy area, as many of the houses were larger and had more open space. The murals were also more exquisite, with depictions of hunts, conquest, and Roman life. They also started to contain more bodies, even some skeletons. We then ended up in the huge square with temples. Going through the square, the city returned back to the typical barred-off ruins with occasional murals. We did end up in a pretty section with bright red poppies blooming among the ruins, as well as another theater. However, to explore the rest of the town you need to pay another fee, so we headed back to the exit. As we were about to leave, we decided to check out the side exhibit that everyone was going to at the entrance. Apparently this was where they were keeping all the artifacts, which would have saved us a lot of time wandering through the city. Not only were most of the bodies stored here, but they also had much more restored murals. After spending a little bit more time looking at the artifacts, we left. Overall, Pompeii was a mixed bag. On the one hand, the way the city had preserved many Roman artifacts as well as bodies was fascinating. Coupled with the much larger scale, Pompeii was a treasure trove for glimpsing into what life was like back then. However, due to most of the artifacts being removed and many of the sites being blocked, it made Pompeii a mess to navigate. I would recommend visiting if you're in the area, but just make sure to grab a map so you know where everything is.